So you thought Prince Harry wasn't related to Meghan? Well, they are, and I show you in this video. Queen Elizabeth's mother's side were the Bowes lions. They are an ancient family, and half of the Bowes lions are the Bowes, and it's the Bowes that connect Harry and Meghan. You see, back in the 1400s, the Bowes family were extremely wealthy. This is a list of what one son William had, and it includes Streatham Castle in Durham. When William died without issue, all of this went to his younger brother Ralph, and this is where the story begins. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Here on Mortal Faces, I take historic portraits and transform them to see how individuals we read about might have looked in real life, as well as go through family trees to see how relatives are all connected. I did connect the rest of the royal family on my channel, so check out the description for their links. Thank you for watching, subscribe for more trees and recreations, and let me know in the comments who you'd like to see in real life. Sir Ralph Bowes of Streatham married Marjorie Conyers. They had 5 kids, 4 boys and 1 girl, born in Streatham, County Durham in England. John was his father's firstborn and heir, but died without issue. Then there's his sister Marjorie and their second brother Ralph. Ralph married the daughter of Lord Clifford and had 2 daughters and a son. The son had 3 boys and 3 girls, but his 3 boys died without issue, so the estates and titles went to Ralph's brother Robert. Robert Bowes Esquire became captain of Norham Castle, inheriting his father's estates and titles. He, however, had 4 sons who all died during infancy, so the estates and titles went to his nephew George Bowes, the only son of Richard Bowes and the Sheriff of Durham. Richard married Elizabeth Aske, who was the daughter and possibly co-heir of her father Roger Aske, Esquire, and they had 15 children. Bridget and George were 2 of them. We'll start with Bridget's line, which descends to Meghan, and then we'll look at George's line, which goes down to Harry. Bridget Bowes married Thomas Hussey, born in Surrey, England, the son of Giles, a knight. Giles's father was Sir John Hussey, a baron, who, during the christening of Elizabeth I, carried the canopy along with George Boleyn, who was Anne Boleyn's brother, Thomas Howard, and William Howard. He married Lady Anne Grey, the daughter of the 2nd Earl of Kent, and they had Thomas, who married Bridget Bowes. Their great-grandson was Captain Christopher Hussey. Captain Christopher Hussey, born in Surrey, England, moved to America, helping to found Nantucket, Massachusetts. He became a captain and an officer of the crown, being commissioned by King Charles II of England to govern the royal province of New Hampshire, so he went there. Then his daughter was Huldah, who married Lieutenant John Smith in New Hampshire, and his father was one of the original purchasers of Nantucket. So we have these 2 Nantucket, New Hampshire families going on. He partnered with Thomas Mayhew, who established the first European settlement on Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket. Huldah's great-grandson was Christopher Smith, who fought in the Revolution as a private. He was also a deacon and a Quaker. Then Christopher Smith had John Smith IV, who was a soldier in the American Revolution, as a rank of a private and also a genteel farmer. His son was John Smith V, one of the best farmers in the state. Then his daughter was Mary. Mary Hussey Smith married Jacob Lee Merrill, a farmer, and then Mary had George David Merrill, who was an entrepreneur in Bear Island, New Hampshire. He provided food, ice, and boat services to the island residents. His house was the only one with plastered and wallpapered walls on the island, and later, after World War I, he built numerous cottages around the island and supplied what was necessary for island living to the residents. George had Gertrude, who had Doris, and she was Meghan's paternal grandmother. Then she had Thomas, Meghan's father, who was an Emmy Award-winning lighting director and director of photography, who had Meghan in 1981 from his second wife, Doria Ragland. Now let's go back to the top, and we're going to see Bridget Hussey's brother, George, in 1527. George was a military commander. He was the 2nd son to Richard. His older brother Ralph died without issue, so he got the inheritance. He had a whole bunch of kids, and 3 of them were Thomas, George, and Anne from his first wife, and Talbot was one of his sons from his second wife, Jane. When George died, his estates went to his eldest William, but then William died without male heirs, and his second brother Robert, a prospector, died in a mining accident unmarried, so his estates of Streatham were divided between his brother George and half-brother Talbot. Anne's granddaughter Mary married her first cousin once removed, in other words, her grandmother's brother's kid, Sir George. Sir George was in line to inherit the family fortune. Sir George's father, also named George, received it from his dead brother William. George prospected and mined for gold in Scotland, And this kind of foreshadowed the inheritance the Bowes would receive through his granddaughter Anne. Anne married Sir Francis Blackiston, the youngest remaining heir of the Blackiston estate and baronetcy. When he died without male issue, his estates minus the now extinct title went to his only daughter, Elizabeth, and this included the Gibbside estate, which contained some of the area's richest coal seams. So through their connections, the Bowes family, who already had castles and so much wealth, just got immensely richer from the Blackistons. Elizabeth would marry her great-grandfather's brother's kid's kid, so her second cousin once removed, William Bowes, who was a member of Parliament and an English ambassador to Scotland. He was the grandson of one of the younger brothers. Together, the cousins had Sir George, their youngest son. His older brothers died young, so George would inherit the estates, and he had Mary, his only child. Mary married John Lyon, the 9th Earl of Strathmore and Kinghorn. As the condition of the will of George, John had to take the name Bowes in order to inherit the Bowes estate. So he does that, merging the two families into one name, Lyon Bowes. And remember, the Bowes estate not only contained the ancient Streatham, but also the wonderful Gibbside coal mines. Basically, he won the lottery. The couple had Thomas, who had Claude, the 13th Earl. Claude switched the family name from Lyon Bowes to Bowes Lyon, and he was Queen Elizabeth's great-grandfather. Then her grandfather was the 14th Earl, also named Claude. He married Cecilia Cavendish Bentinck, Elizabeth's grandmother, and they had Lady Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, then Queen Elizabeth II, and Charles and Harry. I guess marrying into itself the first two times were so successful that the Bowes had to do it a third time, albeit 300 years later. They are technically 13th cousins, twice removed, so her 15th ancestor is Bridget, whose sibling is George, and his 13th generation down is Prince Harry, so I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe because they're not evenly generational from their ancestors, for example 15 up from Harry and 15 up from Meghan, they're not 15th cousins as the news articles all say they are, but 13th cousins twice removed is basically 15, so it's close enough. And that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more inbred trees and recreations, check out my other videos on my channel, and subscribe. Each of your subscriptions does help this channel grow. It allows me to continue making more content for you. Let me know in the comments who you'd like to see in real life. I do make a list of all your suggestions, and I will see you in the next one.